Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's August 4th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And I thought I'd start out by showing you the daily chart again. Again, this is these bands here on our envelope strategy, and you can see how prices bounce off of them. Some people always ask what this is, but that's what this is. This is an envelope strategy that we use. But let's zoom in a little bit here, and you can see we've been in this range here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days, and we're still inside it. So right now, I would be looking to sell up here along this price range if you get an opportunity, and I'd be looking to buy down here until this shows us different. So that on a daily chart, this doesn't look real big, but this is 43.70. Well, let's just look exactly. 43.71 to 44.16 maybe, and you can see we pushed above that a few times, but we always close inside of that, and we push below that. So if you really take the exact, the very lows is 43.65 to 44.22, which is a fairly large range for a daily chart. You can see we've had some pretty good days, but we're just going back and forth inside that range, and it works the very same on a daily chart as it does a 2,000 tick chart or a 5-minute chart or whatever. Prices are stuck in this range. Eventually, they'll probably fell out one side or the other and trap people, and then maybe run out the other. And it could be that we fell out both sides multiple times. But I would look to possibly buy here and possibly sell here if you get a good setup. So just keep that in mind. But let's switch over to the other chart, the 2,000 tick intraday. This is it. Well, I actually wanted to back out a little bit just so you can see where those lows are on the intraday charts and the highs are on the intraday charts. So when we get down to this level right here, I'd look to possibly buy. You can see we've been clearly going sideways here in a big range for a while. And my guess is that we will remain in this range until something changes. So keep that in mind and keep those price levels in mind and take advantage of them if we get an opportunity. So, but that's what it looks like on a bigger picture. So let's talk about today. Today is basically, there's actually two legs down here. If you measure this first leg, and you can see I moved it over here to get the second leg. And at the time I talked about this on my mid-morning chart posting that I put on the website. And I talked about if this turns out to be the high of this correction, that we'll probably make a measured leg down. And you can see, it may be hard to see there, but we maybe missed that by a tick. If you move that out of the way, I don't know if you can see that stem there, but we missed that by maybe a tick. And so using these measured moves is take advantage of them, because I show you these on charts every day over and over, and it's amazing how accurate they are. We didn't go, a lot of times when you get one leg that goes straight down, the next one will be real choppy. Or if one of them straight up, the next one will be real choppy. Or maybe this one's real choppy down and the next one's real fast. It's amazing how often those measured moves are actually to the exact tick or within a tick or two versus it's crazy how, I show you this over and over, and I'm still amazed myself at how well this market geometry works. Anybody tells you that market geometry is not real, they don't know what they're talking about. You can laugh at them, because I'll show you every day it's very real. And yeah, it's a skill. It takes a while to get used to finding these things, but you can go. I talked about this at 9:30 this morning, actually a little before 9:30, and it came out to be an exact measured move down. So by 9:30, I want to say when I posted the chart, we were maybe right in here somewhere. I believe. I can't remember. No, that's closer to 10. So we were probably right in here somewhere, just starting to break down here. And you would looking at that yellow channel, you'd say, no way, we're going to probably make that target. We're going higher. And sure enough, we end up going down to that, to the tick almost, and then we reversed. So really most of the trading day was a range day. We were inside these lows and these highs here. But there's clearly two legs down, and then we had another correction, and then we just kind of went sideways. Big picture is a range day. But there's a two-legged correction here, and then some sideways action. That's the way I would describe it. So let's back out. We'll go through the trades. Not a lot of them today, but there's some pretty good trades today. There's enough that you could find you some trades. So 7 o'clock came just as we're turning down right in here. And notice the new high, and we try to go higher once, and then we try to go higher twice, and this actually breaks higher and fails. When that breaks lower right there, treat that like a failure and take that short. Unfortunately, you don't get a runner on this one, but really you could just almost call that a double top, and so you try to go higher once, twice. So you get another failure right there. It's only a first entry short, and this is actually your signal bar, but you would enter one tick below that bar. So you may take that trade. I marked it green. You had to see this as a double top, and I would call that a double top every time. So you could count that as a new high, so a new first entry. And you can clearly see the two legs down, and then when it breaks lower here, and you can see how fast that dropped down. That's a fast and furious drop. That shows you that you had the longs were fooled, trying to get long in here, and suddenly it drops down. And we got a break here at a new low, and then we tried to go lower once. We tried to go lower twice. This is a little bit congestive, but there's 3 attempts to go lower, and we're way away from the EMA, so we're more than past due to snap back. So you may take that trade. Like I said, I'm going to mark it green. It's aggressive, but I like those kind of trades because, look, we haven't touched the EMA since back up here around before 7 o'clock, and it's been almost an hour. Actually, it's been at least an hour by this point, so we're overdue to come back. We do get a second entry short right here that I would have liked to have taken, but signal bar is no good on my chart. If you got a decent signal bar right there, you could take a short, but that's a very neutral bar, and that's starting to look like congestion, so I just don't see it being worth taking. But it drops down here again and bounces right off this line. So this looks to me like a valid trend line. It really got confirmed here, but I'd want to see it break away for a little bit and come back. And when it holds right there on the second entry long, that far away from the EMA, you're almost for sure going back to the EMA at a very minimum. And we could go higher. So I like that trade. And of course we move up and we're just kind of chopping around here. I don't see anything in here. You would look for prices to go higher here, but you don't want to enter on this first entry on an inside bar. Then we drop down. Then we're just kind of going sideways. That's definitely congestion. You got your bar with no body almost there. You got another one there with no body. Don't enter in this. We finally come back, and then we make a higher low here. And I like going long there on that second entry. It actually was a second entry when it broke above this bar. This would have been an engulfing bar, so you could have entered on this bar one tick above it. I don't know if it broke out the high side first and then went lower and came back. I don't remember which way it broke. So it doesn't matter. If you played as an engulfing bar, your stop has to go here anyway, and then when this closed, you'd move it over to here. So, or you could have just waited on this bar and entered one tick above it, but it's a second entry long. And it's continuing to bounce off this trend line. Even though this is an upward channel right here, look how we're swinging above and below the EMA. That is range-like enough that you could trade this both ways if you get a really good setup. So just keep that in mind. And then, of course, this runs all the way up to the top. You make a lower high here. This is tempting, and I liked this trade. The problem was we had some support here, so it's not very far down to that, but you're probably going to come back to the EMA, and if this channel is valid, we're probably coming all the way back to the trend line. So just something to think about there. Um, but I like this failed second entry here. Notice you try to go higher uh, once, and you try to go higher twice, and it fails instantly and turns down. When it broke lower there, just go short. And this drops all the way down. It kind of goes sideways. You probably would have scalped out of this pretty quickly, and then it kind of goes sideways. So it's doubtful you get a runner on that, unless you use a limit order and got a really good entry. Uh, Again, it's tempting to go long here on this higher low, and I don't think it was worth risking because there's a possible trend line working down through here. You touched it here, you really confirmed it here, and it could turn up and turn down right there. Um, I just don't think you can go long right there until it's just a little bit too early. And I don't know if that would have worked or not. Let's see how many ticks are in there. It's 5 ticks, so you would add a loot. Maybe there's 6 there. No, there's only 5 ticks there. So you would add a loser there. And that's why, unless you got a little better entry here. So that's the reason you don't want to go. Oops, I deleted the wrong thing there. Put our channel back on. I'm going to get rid of that measured move just so it's not so cluttered. But you can see we're moving down. You did get a break right there to move to a new low. I didn't mark this one. This is another tempting one. When you start trying to pick these lows, you can get burned. You really need a higher low here, and you just don't really get one until way up here. It's too late to enter up here. But if you want to be super aggressive on this overshoot right here, that far away from the EMA, maybe you enter there, but you'll get burned sometimes. But I tend to like these because they tend to be a lot of times important lows. And while that's not a super important low, you probably get a runner there, and you can see you could get a nice runner here. And even if you got out right there, there's 6.5 points. So it's a pretty good move. So it's worth, and you can clearly see the 2 legs up there. There's a leg up, correction, second leg up, and then a lower high. I did not mark this lower high because it's back inside that range. And I don't really see a break or close outside till here, so there's a good chance you're going to get a trap. I really thought maybe we'd get a short trap here that would push on up to a new high. This just went lower. And even though there's a second entry short there, I just don't think it's worth taking. You are a little ways away from the EMA. So it's a possibility that you might go short there, but I really was looking for a trap and a second entry long there, and I was wrong. I mean, we did get a second entry long, but it didn't set up like I thought. I thought it would bounce off that EMA, so I avoided that short. But we do have a close outside and a clearly new high and a lower high, so maybe I was just being biased, and if you saw it as a lower high and you were thinking short, maybe everything has played out here. The thing is, we had this overshoot, and you would expect prices to make a new high, but looking back at it, the channel might have been, it might have even been more like this. Sorry. It could have been more like this, because that definitely fits, and then this way you get a break and a new high, and then we start working lower again. So that may be the correct read. I'm just not sure. Doesn't matter. It all works out the same either way. But anyway, you may take that trade and you may take that one. And then, of course, there's a second entry long. And we do have a close outside new low here. So, but this just seemed like too much sideways stuff. Look at the dojis in there, the small bodies. I didn't like that trade. Then, of course, we come up, we make a lower high. It's lower than this one, and then we make another lower high on a second entry short. I like that one. The only problem is still above the EMA, but we don't have that measured move down yet. It's way down here. So you would think we're probably going to push on lower, which we do. and then we just start kind of going sideways right here. Um, but you get a very bearish bar near the highs of this. The key is you got to have enough room to get out, and you probably could have moved this line down to right there when we got those last closes, and that would also include that. So just make sure you got enough room. I would probably want enough room before that previous close. So you might let this break lower, then drop a limit order in, and then see if you can ride it on down. That's the reason I marked that one green. Of course, we bounce, but you get a failed second entry short right here, but it's not back to the EMA. It's not even really back to the trend line. And then, of course, you got this possible resistance right here. So I just didn't like it. And you can see that resistance does come back into play momentarily over here. But I think we've pushed out far enough on both sides now that you could probably justify this other trade. So, and this is congestion here, but you can kind of see the support that's set up across here. And you can notice if we go back to the original support with our support line here, we test that once, we run up, we come back, we test it again, we run up, we come back and test it again. So there's a double test. Usually you like a little gap in there, but I think that's enough test, and that's holding. And this is a second entry long with a nice bullish bar. I like going long there. You may not could have got in there because it gaps over. So you probably had to drop a limit order there and see if it would back up and fill you. And I don't know if you'd have got filled on it or not, honestly. My guess is it might have been hard to get filled on that. Then you come up here, you get a close outside, new high, you work down. That's not a very convincing close outside, so it's probably why we ran up to another new high. And of course, you got this one working up now, and that is a failed second entry short. Close enough to the EMA on a, especially for a second entry long. I like going long right there. Just make sure you got enough room to get out before these highs. So you may, if you don't, you got to let it break higher and drop a limit order, maybe a tick back or so, just enough to get room. Didn't matter, it worked anyway, but make sure you have room to get out because sometimes it will matter. Of course, we run down real strongly. You can clearly see how there's the EMA just completely, it's like it's not even there this time. Then you pull back with a first entry, then a second entry with a big bearish bar right there. I like going short there. That's a real easy gimme. And then we bounce here, and then we start going sideways. We get a failed breakout with a big bar. Again, this is one you probably have to let break lower and then drop a limit order up and try to get filled a little better just to make sure you got room to get out before these lows here. And you can see those lows working across there. Just make sure you got enough room to get out. It doesn't matter in the end, but sometimes it will matter. So make sure you got room. And that drops like a rocket. They trapped the longs on this failed break here and took it short again. And on these days where you're just, this is when it gets hard. When it starts, you got to use these short-term trend, micro trend lines because none of these highs are consistently turning down and none of these lows are consistently turning up. So you got to let these play out. Or play your little short-term channels. That's the only way to play it. And even then it can be harder. So these kind of days are harder when it gets like this. It was pretty easy on the 2 legs down, but from here on, it's really difficult to get into a rhythm here. It's not consistently going in either direction. It's just a little hard to trade. And so if you struggle, and notice I don't have many trades in there from this point on. Most of them are green. There's a blue. There's maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon trades. And outside of that, in here, it's just really hard to say for sure what's going on. So you got to be a little aggressive or just sit on the sidelines. And, you know, days like this can be difficult if it's not a clear-cut trend or a clear-cut range. And when it's not, you just have to, the only thing you can do is draw these short-term micro trends that I've got on here and let them play out. And that's really all you can do. It will help you tremendously. You'd be surprised how many times people send me their chart and they don't have these small channels on here and you just can't see what's going on, especially if you're not a real experienced chart reader that can just look at the chart and see these things. You know, when you've been doing this for 20 years, you might be able to glance at it and see it without putting it on there. But, you know, I get people that are brand new and they don't put them on there, and then they wonder why they got fooled. These will help keep you on the right side if you play the rules on them. Most every one of these had a close outside and a new high or a close outside and a new low. Just about every one of them. And so you would get your, you know, you get your clues as to when it's going to end and when it's going to turn by drawing them. So they're important. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up, and this is Wednesday, so we'll be back tomorrow to wrap up this week, wrap up the first week of August. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.